Hello, hello, and welcome everybody. I love that breaking glass right at the end of that intro. I think that's really cool. Welcome to episode 17, I believe, of Inside the Wrongful Conviction of Daniel Holtzclaw. And it looks like I put episode 14, so I apologize for that on the thumbnail. Tonight, we're going to start unraveling the tale of Tabitha Barnes' accusations. We're taking hers very slowly. It's very hard to decipher and understand and get through. So we're going to take it slowly. We'll probably do at least 2 weeks of just discussing her case because it's really difficult. And I know it's going to take at least Cherie and Kay and I think Susan still has some questions, but I know the three of us are probably going to need to answer some questions for you. So if you don't understand something that you're going to hear tonight or watch, please don't hesitate to ask questions in the chat, because I want everybody who's watching to be able to go away from this having some sort of an understanding of what she's talking about, what she's trying to say. We are going to listen to about the first half of Bates' review of her case, and then it's just going to abruptly end, because I don't want to go into what he has coming next, or what the interview with Gregory has coming next, until next week, because I want to discuss everything that we're going to hear tonight this week and try to unravel it for you. So that being said, I want to welcome everybody in chat and everybody who's watching and lurking. And I want to welcome Inexplicable Susan. Katie did it, and I don't recall, to the panel. Good afternoon, ladies.
Afternoon, Rhonda.
Hello. Great to have you here. So in an effort to try and make these shows a little not so long, I want to just go ahead and get right into it, unless anybody on the panel has anything they'd like to say. Okay. I am taking that as a no. And hello to Justine J in the chat. Also, really quickly, those of you who are members, I'm experimenting with emojis for members of the channel. So if you go down to where you find your regular emojis for YouTube and whatnot, if you can see whether or not you have emojis that I made unlocked for you, or if they're even there, maybe just use them, stick them in the chat just so I can see how they look. And if you don't see anything at all, let me know that too, because I'm completely trying to teach myself, which is dangerous at times. Okay. Moving forward, we were oh, I can't, let me see it on YouTube. Let's see. Oh, yay, they did work. Oh my gosh, I'm so proud. Yeah, those look really good. I'm pretty proud of myself figuring that out on my own. And as I get more things figured out, as far as, membership rewards and things like that, I'll start adding other levels and things like that too. So yeah, those look really awesome. Hopefully you like those, Justine. Okay, we are going to get started. Here we go.
In the investigative timeline, it is August 14th, 2014, and Oklahoma City Police sex crimes detective Rocky Gregory is seeking what he believes to be are additional victims of then patrol officer Daniel Holtzclaw. Detective Gregory begins his official report of this date with the following notation. At 1400 hours, I went to try to locate Tabitha Barnes at her residence in the 1500 block of Northeast 15th Street. In looking at suspect Holtzclaw's record checks of females, Tabitha Barnes' name stood out. Also, initially, she matched a possible profile set aside by Lieutenant Musney. That profile is the quote-unquote list made by Lieutenant Musney that later will be denied to actually exist. According to Detective Gregory's report, he did locate Tabitha Barnes at her home in Northeast Oklahoma City. And, like with so many of the black females with criminal histories that he profiled, he began his conversation by stating, quote, I introduced myself and advised that I had a tip that maybe she had been the victim of an unreported sexual assault, end quote. We don't know if he added the words, by an Oklahoma City police officer, and we don't know that because Detective Gregory conveniently decides when he will and when he won't record his investigative conversations. We can only assume that he most likely did use those words and simply didn't bother to note it in his report. Why can we make that assumption? Because we already know he does use those words in all of his recorded interactions. Regardless, according to his report, Detective Gregory apparently has an entire conversation with Tabitha Barnes wherein she claims, quote, she was indeed touched inappropriately by an officer. Tabitha advised that an OCPD officer had been harassing her on more than one occasion, end quote. What happens next, especially when taken into context with the entirety of Detective Gregory's investigation, really concerns me, and it should actually concern anyone who values the integrity of criminal investigations. According to his official investigative report, upon Barnes's alleged admission of inappropriate behavior by Holtzclaw, Detective Gregory contacted Lieutenant Musney by phone and asked him to come to their location to sit in on the interview. However, what he allegedly doesn't do is bother to audio record any of what was apparently a long, very detailed, and very odd interview. According to Detective Gregory's report, Tabitha Barnes details an initial interaction wherein Holtzclaw allegedly made her expose herself and then allegedly touched her breasts. Barnes then begins to tell Detective Gregory and Lieutenant Musney about a second encounter with Holtzclaw. However, she apparently begins to nod off and can't even remain conscious. I'm guessing her speech probably was fairly erratic and unintelligible at this point. Detective Gregory notes in his report that they are unable to proceed with the interview and that they agree to leave and come back the following morning at 10 a.m. Gregory tries to downplay this as simply Barnes's reaction to prescription Ambien and the fact she claims to have been up all night taking care of her grandbaby. I'd be okay with giving Barnes the benefit of the doubt if it wasn't for the fact Detective Gregory conveniently claims he didn't record any of this interaction. And then later at trial, we find out that Barnes often smokes crack cocaine, and then Barnes actually shows up to testify while high on PCP. A fact that was only confirmed when trial judge Timothy Henderson ordered Barnes to undergo a drug test on the spot. Regardless, when Detective Gregory returned the following morning at the prearranged time, Barnes was nowhere to be found. According to Gregory, he returned to Barnes's residence at least 5 times and called her contact numbers to no avail over the next couple of days. Finally, on August 17th at about 2:15 in the afternoon, Detective Gregory was able to locate Barnes at her home. Barnes claimed that she had caught up on her sleep and was able to continue with the interview. Unlike the first interview, Detective Gregory did record this interaction. The following is the complete audio recording of that meeting.
What is today's date? Tabitha? You know? 17th. It's Detective Gregory, Oklahoma City Police Department. I'm here with Tabitha Banks here in front of her Barnes. I'm sorry. Too many names. I apologize. Here at Northeast 15th. We're here to finish up our interview. We spoke briefly the other day, but we're going to go ahead and finish it today. Tabitha wanted to complete the interview. Okay. On the, what is your middle name, Tabitha?
Jean.
Jean? G-E-N-E?
J-E-A-N.
Okay, all right. And your date of birth?
73.
Okay, what's your social?
445.
Okay, all right. Now, we had completed everything on the first incident, right?
Which way?
Right, where it was snow on the ground. You said it was the 4th, but you don't know what month. And that's where the stop was, right here.
That was March.
That was March?
March 4th, about 12:30.
Okay. But that's the one we had already covered, correct? The other day when Lieutenant Musney was, and then you pulled into here, and they ended up dispersing. He after everybody was gone, and that's when he had you lift your shirt up, and then he also lifted your breast, correct?
Yeah.
Everything that was the first incident,
That was the
correct?
first incident.
Okay. So that was March 4th. Okay. And I will put that down. Okay. You seem a lot more clear-minded today. The other day you was pretty tired, wasn't you?
Oh, God, I had that baby. It cried too much. Took my Ambien. I was sleepy.
Well, I know. Yeah. You were pretty tired that day.
I took my Ambien. I was ready to go to sleep. But I was tired.
Okay. So I've got that part down pretty good, correct? He didn't touch you any other way except for lifting the breast that time. Okay.
Yes.
Now we were getting ready to talk about the second incident.
The second incident,
How much later?
about 2 weeks.
2 weeks. Okay.
I pulled up and someone in my house. Therefore, my landlord had to fix the door. The door was just open. When I pulled up, it was another guy. Well, I pulled on the side over here, and there was a guy in the grass. So that's what I thought the police was here for. No, he was him.
Was the police already here when you arrived?
Yeah, he was.
Where was he parked?
Right here.
Right.
Right in
over
the
here.
middle of the street.
Okay. What time did you said this is 2 weeks later. What time of day are we looking at?
About 9:30.
About what?
It's by 9:30 at night.
9:30.
9:30.
Okay.
And he had been all in my house.
So when you pull up here, you parked over there.
Because I seen a guy laying out in the grass.
And the police was here.
And that's what I thought they was here for.
Okay. And you go where?
I get out the car, he called me by name in the grass and tell me to come in.
The officer?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So the officer's standing outside.
When he see me pull up, he gets out his car. And I'm looking at the guy on the grass. And he called me by my name, told me to come here.
What's he call you by?
Tabitha. I'm like, what is it now? And he said, you got drugs on you? I said, why do you keep asking me, do I have drugs? If I had drugs, something was cut off my gas. So if I sold drugs, do you think I'd be in a cold house waiting on DHS to pay my rent? Pay my gas bill? But let me talk to you again. So a guy friend of mine was over here, and he was asleep. Well, he was all in my house. He said, I just walked all through your house. Da-da-da-da. I was like, okay, you didn't see nothing in my home, illegally. Why do you keep harassing me? Or get in the car. That's when they get in the car. Told me to get in the car again. So I got in the back seat. And he told my daughter, I said, you scaring my child. Me? I said, yeah, you. So he told Ariana Barnes to come here. He said, am I scaring you? She said, yes. Why do you keep bothering my mama? Because I talks to my girls. And I told her what happened. Well, he was like, ask me again. Do you got anything on you? I said, well, no. Asked me to raise up my shirt again. I done it. Which I didn't have them brown at the time.
You did?
I didn't.
Didn't? Okay.
Asked me, did I have anything in my pants? And I said no. He asked me, let me see. And I just did. He didn't put his hands in it. I just did like this. You know, I had on some leggings. And he just, you know, said, open your leggings. And that's when there was a $20 bill in the back seat. And he was like, you didn't take my money, did you? I said, take your money for what? I didn't even notice the $20 until he said something. So I looked, and there was a $20 bill in the back seat. Ran my name again. Like, when you gonna take care of your tickets? I said, me and my father's working on it. He let me go again. 2 days later.
Okay, I'm gonna stop you there, okay? Because I wanted you to run down through it to have a clear mind, okay? Now I'm gonna back you up on that one. I want to cover everything, okay? The more you cover with me, hopefully you won't have to cover this, later on unless you want to, okay? That's my game plan. Okay. Now I do know it's 2 weeks after March, so we're still in March. It's 9:30 p.m. You park over here on Jordan.
On the side of the house.
And he is parked here
in the middle of the street.
Here on Northeast 15th.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Who is with you in the car?
Me, my 11-year-old, and my son.
Okay. Your 11-year-old is who? Is that
Ariana.
Ariana. Okay. And your son?
Marcus.
How old's Marcus?
He's 7.
Okay. All right. So he says, "Come here." Where you said there was a guy in your grass?
Yeah, just laying there. And I'm like, you over here harassing me. Why you want? Who is this? Who is this? What's going on? Well, no, I'm thinking something wrong with the guy. He kicks the guy, told him to get up and move on. Didn't ask him his name. What's wrong with you? You need an ambulance? Nothing. Kicks the guy. Get up. Move on.
And the guy moves.
Mm-hmm.
What did the guy look like?
I don't know. It was like there's so many people be up and through here. I don't know. I didn't even know the guy.
White guy, black guy?
Black. He was black.
Okay, but unknown. Okay. So that guy moved on.
Yeah, walked that way.
So he moved northbound here on Jordan. Okay. All right, but he tells you to come here. Does he sit you in the police car?
Yes.
Okay.
In the back seat.
Okay. Okay, and your kids are still in the car?
No, they got out. We're standing in the yard.
Okay. Okay. Now this is the part where I'm going to really slow down. He takes you, puts you in the car, back seat. What side were you on?
His side.
Okay, so you're on the driver's side. Okay. What's he do next? As soon as he says, "Come here," puts you in the back seat. Did he already search you?
No.
Okay, so he sits you down.
He always put me in the back seat.
Okay. And what's he
Asked
say?
me the same thing.
What did he say?
Do you take care of your tickets? I said, I'm working on it. Then that's when he asked me, you got drugs on you? And that's when I said, if I stole drugs, my gas wouldn't be out. I wouldn't be waiting on DHS to help me pay my bills.
So you said no on the tickets?
Yeah,
okay.
no.
Let me catch up on my notes, okay? I'm sorry, I'm a slow rider. You're doing good, Tabitha. Pay for the electric? Is that what you told me?
My gas.
Pay for gas, okay. All right, what's the next thing he said? He says, you got any drugs? You tell him about
that's when
they're paying the gas. Okay, I got that.
He said, could you let me, can I see? I said, that's when I said, I think I said again, why you always coming over here by yourself and it ain't nobody, a lady detective with you? Why do you always want to see me, and you by yourself? Now I went ahead and did it again. And he's like, I think.
Is this before he talked to your daughter?
Before he talked to Ariana.
Okay. So the kids are where?
Standing in the yard.
Okay.
And she was standing there.
So Why by yourself? What does he say after you ask him why you always by yourself? Trying to see me.
He didn't really say nothing. He didn't comment on it. He was like, I want to say, he said, I'm doing you a favor. Or what?
Okay.
And
what's he say?
I can remember.
What's he say or do next? After you confront him about.
He get out his car. He get out the front seat, open up the back seat, and he was like, "Before I let you out, I gotta check you."
Did he already run you yet?
Yeah, I was sitting right there when he ran me.
Okay, so he would run you during this time period. Was it over the radio?
Yes.
Did he pull you up on the screen?
I didn't look at I know he was messing with the screen, but I could hear the lady
Okay.
that ran back, told him that I had the ticket.
Okay. Before I let you go, he said what?
You asked me again, do I have drugs on me? I said no. And that's when he was saying, well, I'm about to check you. And I raised my shirt up. He looked.
Hang on, was it? I'm about to check you?
I'm gonna have to check you.
Did he tell you to raise your shirt or what?
Yes.
How did he say it?
Lift your shirt up. And I did like this. I said, I don't have nothing on me. He said, you got anything in your
So
pants?
it wasn't the whole belly thing? It was all the way up?
Yeah.
So he lifted all the way up because that's what he had you do before?
Yeah. It was like it was the same routine.
Let me ask you this, Tabitha. Did you go to the belly or did you just automatically go up?
Just automatically go up.
Automatic. Okay. So you had no bra on, correct?
Not very. Not that time. The first time I did.
First time you did have a bra? Oh, I thought you said the other day you did not have a bra.
The first time I had a bra on because I lifted it up. Lifted the bra up and it wasn't good enough for him. That's when he lifted up my breast. This time, I know I didn't have no bra on.
On the first time? But he picked up your bare breasts.
Okay. I had it because I just did like this with my shirt and my bra.
And then he had you expose them.
Yeah.
So you had to pull your bra up over your breast on that first time?
And with my shirt.
Is that correct?
Yes, with my shirt.
I'll make that correction in my report. I misunderstood you. I didn't think you had a bra on that first time. So you did have a bra. He just had you pull it up and then he lifts it up. Okay, this time you had no bra. So your breasts are exposed. And what's he say?
You got anything in your pants? I said no. And he was like, just kept looking at it, and he was like, let me see. And I had on leggings to tights, and I pulled them out, and he just looked. He's like, okay, I'm going to let you go this time. Then he said, I'm going to let you go this time. I said, about 2 weeks later.
Hang on one second. Okay, so this time he did not touch your breasts.
He just looked.
And he did not touch your vagina.
No.
Okay, so no touching.
The second time.
Okay, but you mentioned earlier that this is where you saw the $20 bill.
That second time I seen the $20 bill in the back seat.
What did he say about the 20? He said something.
He said, "Don't touch. Make sure my $20 is back there." And I was like, "What?" I said, "No." I said I had $20 too, because I had it in my bra. The time I had it in my bra, it's in my hand. I know I had $20. I was like, hold up, I got $20 too. And then I looked in the bag and there was a $20 bill in his back seat. I said, I didn't touch your $20.
What do you say you
And
had
I said,
$20 for?
That's what I said. I said, and what's the $20 for? He said, I got my reasons. I got my reasons.
So that was his 20 in the back.
And when I got out, it remained in the same spot in the back seat.
Where was it back there?
In the middle.
Right in the middle? Could you see it when you sat down?
Well, I wasn't looking, but when he mentioned it, when I got out, I looked.
Yeah, you could see it.
And I looked and I seen it.
Okay, so
he came back.
hang on one second, Tabitha. You said so he never did have your kids go inside, right?
Yeah,
on the second time?
Yeah, he said she's okay. You can go in.
You said something about scaring the kids, and
I told him, I said, you frightening my kids, you keep coming over here, and he told her to come here. And he's like, she's okay. I'm just talking to her about some things. Y'all can go ahead and go in. My thing is, okay, he went in my house for no reason, was not called to go inside my home.
he said he was already in there.
He told me this.
Who was inside?
Terry Williams,
Who's Terry Williams?
an ex-friend of mine.
How do I get a hold of Terry? Do you know?
He in Loudon.
Do you have
I'll give me your number.
okay, can you give me his number too?
He lost that phone, that's why I said give me your number. But he was asleep. He was sleeping in the house. He said that because I told him what happened, what he made me do. He was like, you can do something about that. I said, now who's gonna believe me over a police officer's word?
But he tells you he was inside and Terry was there?
Yes, he was asleep. Terry was asleep in my home.
So he knew he was asleep.
And he knew it.
And he said,
I've been all in your house. I said, for what reason? I said, you just walking out. I said, okay, you been in my house, okay. So, I'm not hiding nothing. Nothing's in my home. This is what got me. I want to say the next day, it seemed like he just came on duty.
hang on, Tabitha. And I know you want to get on to the next deal. I just want to cover this. He said he was all up in the house and there was a guy asleep on the couch.
No, in the room.
In the room.
In the room. Terry said when he woke up, he woke him up with the flashlight in his face.
And what did he say? What did Terry say?
I asked him his name again. I guess ran his name and left out. But who knows how long he was in the house.
Okay, so Terry, do you know how to Terry Williams? Okay.
Yeah, who knows?
He said he ran him.
Yeah, and Terry said, because we had an incident when we call him Shorty. Shorty and his friend get off when they get off of work. They would come over and chill with me when they got off of work. And Jesse, I don't know Jesse's last name, but I can get it. When they got off work, they were sitting right here. I mean, he pulled Jesse out the truck one day, told him he had on makeup, that he was gay. They had just got off work. I mean, would just come here, I don't know what it is. Yeah.
Okay.
Told him he had on makeup, that he was gay, and all kind of stuff. Oh, okay. Nothing. They came back because, okay, we're going to rewind that because after he made me, after he made me show, the ice cream situation, was waiting to go get ice cream. I want to say 3 days or something later, a guy broke in my home. And there we was having a slumber party. So it was a lot of girls. I have more kids.
Before this time that we just talked about?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And he was one of the officers that showed up out of probably 10.
But nothing happened that day?
No, he kept asking me, where's all the girls that was in the house?
But that day that their slumber party thing, he didn't do anything to you?
That's when he started coming. Afterwards. That's when he started coming.
So, slumber party.
We went to eat.
Lots of kids?
Yeah, a lot of girls. It was the girls.
But there was more cops.
Yeah, because I had to call him for the break-in. But he seen, everybody was in the house. They was all
So he was talking
little
about
girls.
that. And then this other time was days later. That's when he had you sit in the car.
Yeah, he asked me
parked
about
over there.
that. He was like, where's
But
all
he said he was all up in your house. Did
Yeah.
he say anything specific about your house?
No, he was just like, I was all in your house. I said, well, why would you be in my home? I didn't call you. You should be taking care of the guy that was on the ground.
Was Terry a boyfriend or what?
Yeah.
Is he? Okay. So he was in your bedroom.
Actually, my son's room sleep.
Okay. Make sure you get me Terry's name, okay? or his phone number, pass on. I need to get a hold of him. Okay. So this next thing, so he didn't touch you on that, but then the next time, how much later are we? Let's go to this one.
This is when it ended.
All right. Anybody confused? Anybody else confused? Twisted? No, don't know where we're at. What's going on? So there's a lot of, I don't know if I want to call it, I mean, I can only call it lies because we know the truth, but when we dug through the police report and we looked through AVLs and all of the available information that we had and what Bates had already done, we were learning that this whole story that she's telling, she makes it sound like it started in March, but we know that it actually began in, in February. And in February, on the 27th, and there were 2 incidents on February the 27th. First, I want to share with you some pictures, though, that I wanted to put in the video and I didn't. So just to kind of give context of things that she was saying, places that she was talking about. So they're not in any particular order here. So on the 27th, she talks about, well, she says that these incidents occurred in March for some reason, because she didn't know yet. They hadn't let her know yet what month these events occurred in, but they'll tell her eventually. But anyway, so this is a picture here of Barnes's house, the aerial view, obviously. This is Northeast 15th Street, and this North and South Street is Jordan Avenue. On the 27th, and please, Cherie, Kay, Susan, please feel free to jump in anytime with, stuff that I'm forgetting or don't know or whatever, or questions. So she's talking about, she's making this sound like it began in March. In reality, this event, first 2 events took place on February 27th. The first incident that she doesn't really talk about in the video, in Bates, in the recording, is, I don't know if that's showing. It's not showing. I'm not sharing my screen. Pointing away. It's not working. So let me share my screen. Let me get the right one. Okay. Sorry about that, guys. That's what I was trying to show you. So this is, let me say it again. Running east and west is 15th, Northeast 15th and Jordan, 15th Street. Running north and south is Jordan Avenue. So on the 27th, there were 2 incidents. The first incident was just after midnight on February. It had just turned February 27th. It was just after midnight. And Tabitha and 1, maybe 2, I can't remember for sure. It's been a while since I've read the report. 1 or 2 of her girls and a friend of hers named Angela Cooper were allegedly in the driveway here, warming up the car waiting for the clock to go past midnight because they were going to go to the store and get ice cream after her new food stamps would drop onto her food stamp card. Now, that's a whole other explanation that I went into quite a bit of detail on the very, very first time I covered Tabitha Barnes a couple of years ago. But it technically, when I did the research and looked everything up, her small lie, big lie, whatever, it doesn't matter. She said they were waiting for food stamps to drop to the card on after midnight on the 27th, so that they could go get ice cream. Well, her food stamps would not have been falling on her, going onto her card on the 27th. The month of February's food stamps were all gone, and March wasn't going to be until she wasn't going to get food stamps again until I think March 5th. So, we can call that a lie or whatever. Not the most important thing here. At any rate, I'm going to be switching around here, unfortunately, too many times for you guys, but this is the AVL of that stop. And I've gone through and I lined everything and I marked times and everything here. So this is Tabitha's house right here, and this is the driveway where this red dot is, where she said she was parked in the driveway, and she said that Officer Holtzclaw, or the cop, stopped right here in front of the house, in front of the driveway, so she couldn't get out, and that another officer had pulled up to behind her to to help Daniel with the call. So this is the AVL of all of this time. This number here, 2C51, this is Officer Ivan Venegas' car. And this is where he pulled to begin. Actually, he started down here. Officer Venegas, sorry, his car was over here on this side on Jordan Avenue. Officer Holtzclaw's car, this was a big mess. That's for another day. I might not have got I did. I'm really sorry I didn't get the right pictures. But let's just go to the story about the guy she's talking about in the grass on that night. So this particular time right here on the 20th, she's saying that this happened in March, but it happened actually in February. And she says that she came home from the buffet or shopping or whatever it was with Ariana and her son Marcus, her daughter and her son, and that she pulled up. She said she pulled up right here. This is what her and Rocky Gregory are talking about in the interview. She pulled up right here, and she said that the cop was parked over here on 15th in the middle of the street. Just in the middle of the street. I don't know why she had to say that, but she claims he was just in the middle of the street. And then I did check, and Kay verified that there was actually some guy passed out in her front yard. And so I call him the rando lying in the grass, that they did encounter on this event. This event does not take place until March. All of the other things that she's talking about actually take place in February. So I get so confused even myself trying to explain this. So February 27th, a few minutes after midnight, she's waiting in the car with her friend Angela Cooper and one of her daughters, maybe both of her daughters. And they're waiting for the car to warm up, so it's after midnight, so they can go get ice cream and the food stamps hit the food stamp card. Then this was the part that was so confusing because there are 2 incidents on the 27th of February and with Daniel's patrol car at her residence. When we looked at the times of the AVL stops, we were able to finally, after hours, at least it seemed like hours, figure out what was actually happening. So the first incident, waiting for the food stamp card, the cops pull up on her. Daniel asks her question, gets her out, asks her questions. I don't believe he handcuffed her, if I'm not mistaken. Asked her a bunch of questions, verified who she was, asked her if she sold drugs, asked her about, is there any drug activity going on in the area? And then at the same time, Officer Venegas had taken her friend Angela Cooper out and doing the same thing with her, just, investigative type questions. The stop lasts for about 10, 13 minutes, I think it was. And then the officers left and went on their way. Cycle through that whole night now. Everybody gets home, they go to sleep, whatever, wake up the next day. The next day is February 27th. At, I believe, 10:02 p.m. on the 27th, there is a burglary. They report somebody involved with Tabitha and their whole crew of crazy people, I guess. Somebody calls and reports a burglary at Tabitha's home. They pull up from going out to dinner or something, all of Tabitha and her people, and they see somebody running out of her house or running from her house, carrying, I guess, some plastic bags with food in them, and a microwave oven, brand new, still in the box, and this guy's running away, carrying it. These things.
And some steaks. Don't forget the steaks.
Yeah, yes. Turns out, yes, thanks, Sheree. Turns out there were some frozen steaks in the plastic bags and whatever other food items. Well, Tabitha and I believe her daughter, not Ariana, but the older one, Zion, possibly Angela Cooper, but then named Summer. Oh gosh, Summer. I can't remember.
Isn't
her
it
name.
Raven Summer or something like that?
Raven Summers. Yeah, I have the police report open here. Let me share that. Let me share that police report and we can kind of go through that a little bit better. They chase this guy. They chase him down, and they're going to catch him, and they're going to hold him till cops get there or whatever they're going to do. So that's what they do. They go chase him down, and they chase him across. So they head north, going on Jordan, but then the guy kind of cuts over. I believe on the next block over, he cuts over to the left, going west, and he's running. And at some point, he's in somebody's backyard, and he can't carry the microwave in the box anymore, so he drops the microwave and the food, the bags, and he's running to get away from this mob of girls that are chasing him, and which I think is kind of funny, but anyway, they're chasing him, and he's running away from them, and he crosses the street on that next block. He crosses the street over, and I can only imagine he's probably running and looking behind him to see how close they are. And when he does that, he runs into a tree, and it knocks him down. I don't know if it knocked him out or not, but knocks him down, and the girls pounce on him, and they start, wailing on him. This is the first incident. This is where Daniel shows up on that incident. And there's a supplemental report in here that Daniel wrote regarding that incident. I should have marked the page because I want to make sure. This is the only supplemental report in every police report that I've read that I know of Daniel, his report being shown that we can read. There aren't any other reports that we see written by Daniel, to my knowledge, in any other, report that these detectives write. But this one is, and this isn't searchable, I don't think. Maybe it is. Trying to think if it will.
I think they are searchable.
I think it is. So I'll see if I can find it. No, it says no. But I know it's there. Anyway, he writes a report on this incident. And the only thing that Daniel had to do with the incident of the burglary was he got the guy that the burglar, he got that guy, put him in his car and took him to or held him in his car, had him detained, and then another officer came and took the guy from Daniel's car and took him to the hospital. Daniel, I believe, did go to Tabitha's house afterwards, where all the other officers had, kind of gathered, I guess you could say, doing all of their, investigation and whatnot. And Daniel did go there, I think, very briefly, but he didn't really, from what I can tell, reading his report, he didn't really have any interaction with Tabitha or really anybody else, from what I could tell. So here's the report that came into dispatch about the call. On 2/27/14 at approximately 22:14 hours, so 10:14 p.m., I responded to the call at 1516 Northeast Terrace Street, which isn't actually Tabitha's house. It's where the guy actually ended up falling, getting knocked down by the tree. And they found the black male laying on the ground. He was identified as Rodney Lee, stated he was running away from several females that threatened to kill him. I know it's not funny. It's serious. And he did suffer some injuries afterwards. I observed him to have a bloody lip, busted open, and blood dripping from his mouth. This is Daniel's report. I placed handcuffs on Lee in investigative detention without incident. I escorted Lee to my patrol vehicle, where he voluntarily made the following statements. He stated that he went over to the residence, Tabitha Barnes, and Lee states he observed a microwave on the front porch. Lee states, all of a sudden, several black females confronted me and started to make threats. Lee says he made threats back. Lee got scared and took off running northbound on Jordan away from the residence. Lee proceeded to head westbound on Northeast 16th and Terrace. That's where Sherry Ellis lived. Lee says during the time he was running, he observed several subjects chasing him. Lee says someone pushed him down at the area of 1516 Northeast and Terrace, where they began to punch him in the face. And
yeah, a tree pushed him down. Punched him in the face.
That's what I remember. I don't know where that came from, but evidently Dan, he told Daniel something different. Of course he did. Well, what's worse, getting chased down and pummeled by a bunch of females, or running into a tree and then the bunch of females pummeling you? I don't know what's worse.
Yeah, getting your ass kicked by some teenage girls.
Girls, yeah. So that's Daniel's report. And then he says, for further information, see others officers' reports under this case number. So anything else that may have been going on, from other female or other officers, Daniel wrote his report. He didn't report on anything else that took place at the residence. So all of that happens within barely 24 hours of time. And that's really the story. But when you listen to what we just listened to, it doesn't sound like that at all. To me, it doesn't sound anything like that. So I'm going to leave this open for a couple of minutes for some Q&A, or if anybody wants to make some further explanations. I need to go. I'm babysitting. Sorry. I need to go check on my grandkids really quick, and I'll be back if you guys want to try to discuss for a few minutes what we've gone through.
So Tabitha is just
Go ahead.
one of the, I think she's one of the accusers that adds, you can always tell if a story is made up or not when they keep adding details, adding details, adding details. And I think of all the accusers, she's done that more than anyone else.
Yeah, I agree.
And I also think that Rocky recorded that first interview, but because she was so messed up, he didn't ever let that recording be known, because he wanted to just be able to say that, she had just taken her Ambien and she was really sleepy and just having a hard time staying awake, instead of having audio proof that she was just slurring her words and completely messed up. Like she was at trial.
Yeah, and we find later one of the officers, was it Denise Wenzel, said that she was, admitted that she was tweaking or something like that.
Yeah.
She wasn't just sleepy.
Was that in a email or was that in Wenzel's?
I think it was in an email. You put it, I think it's in that timeline, a long timeline.
Oh, yeah. Let me see what's in there. Did I cut you off?
I was just gonna, before I forget, I was gonna ask, when she said he and Lawton, was Terry Williams like just living in Lawton, or was he in a correctional facility up there? Don't you know?
I'm not sure. There is one in Lawton, though.
Oh, I was just curious.
Yeah, I'm not sure, though. Let's see. This is February 27th. Oh my God, this timeline's ridiculous. Now it's like 400 slides.
Should be searchable. I would think, but I don't know that.
Well, now, Cherie, that'd just be too darn easy. Okay. March 27th. Is that going to be which contact? That'd be the 3rd.
They contacted her, I think around the 13th of August or something like that, 14th. If I think.
Let's see. Oh, they're going to get Johnson at the same time, aren't they?
Yeah,
I'm so sorry. They were all supposed to be in the house, and I had to go corral them. They
I
were
think they
outside.
were. Oh, sorry.
No, you're
I
okay.
think they were in. They were going at like. It seems like they went to visit Florine, and then they went to Tabitha, and then they went back to Florine, or something like that. You know, they were, and then they also got Carla Johnson and I think Carla Raines in a few days there in August. I think she's Kay's looking for where Wenzel talked about Tabitha's condition that first day.
That was in. Sorry, I'm so sorry. I kind of messed this whole flow up. That was in the email. I think you read from the email. I think last week. I think you read it.
Oh,
Okay.
did you? It was in the timeline. I remember that.
I just want to say hello to Jazznaz real quick. Thank you, Jazznaz. And thank you for reminding folks to leave a thumbs up. And Q is somebody who I've met in chat watching the Daybell trial. So Q, thank you so much for subscribing to the channel and for coming to visit. We really appreciate it. And I know that a few other people from that chat have also subscribed to the channel as well. So we appreciate the support. And yeah, that's really awesome. Glad to see you. So yeah, if I remember correctly, Kay, you had read parts of the emails last week. But anyway, that's what one of the emails indicated was that Tabitha Barnes was so messed up from drugs. I don't remember Denise Wenzel's exact words, but that she was so messed up that they couldn't even talk. So that's kind of, at this particular time in the timeline, these detectives are working furiously trying to get as many accusers to pile on Daniel as they possibly can. And at this point, they still don't have the female whose DNA was found. So, it only kind of figures that since they didn't do it the way they should have done it the very first day, that, they would still be looking for that person. But that's pretty much, what happens with those first two incidents in February, the two times that there was any interaction. And again, I don't believe there was any interaction after the burglary, but she did see him there. And Cherie made a interesting point a long time ago, once we figured this out and made it all, worked it out the way it really is, that at some point in the police report, Tabitha Barnes, or maybe it was in the trial, I don't remember now, but at some point Tabitha Barnes is saying, yeah, there was, all of these cops were there, and I went into the house and into the kitchen, and there was a female officer in there, and Cherie kind of made a joke about it after we figured it out, and it really made sense. She's saying that Daniel's in the house and he's watching her and looking at her and giving her, what were the words she was using, Cherie? side eye or something, glaring at her, or eyeballing her, don't you say anything.
Eye
She walks,
contact.
eye contact.
Yeah.
He made eye contact. That's what it was.
He
Tabitha
eye
Barnes-
contact me.
No, he eye contacted me.
Yeah, he eye contact me. And so she knew, even with 10 other officers around her, she better not dare say anything to them about this particular officer allegedly sexually assaulting her. So anyway, and I think that's in the police report. And then, of course, in a few weeks, when we do get to the preliminary hearing transcripts, and then ultimately the big time, the trial transcripts, which are insane, absolutely insane. You're going to get a lot more information, but it's not going to make any sense either. So that's what we're here to do. Try to help unwind, untwist this whole story out. I don't think that I have put her police report in her room in Discord yet. If I have not, I will do that tonight. So that you can look through the police report and try your best to, I have it pulled up here. We can kind of skim through it, but this is a pretty long report comparatively to most of the others. But I've spent a lot of time on Tabitha Barnes AVL maps. That's what I call them, AVL maps. This was another way that I figured out that what she was saying was just BS, if for no other reason, based on the AVL reports, believe it or not. So I think as I've scrolled by them, you might have seen, how much time and effort I put into these, which, could be argued that I'm wasting time doing it, but I learned something from it. That will become very important once we discuss the third alleged incident that comes up. But I don't want to spoil that because it's really very interesting, but yet it never gets talked about or mentioned, as far as I can recall anyway, during trial. So I will put the police report in the Discord. And I'll just actually put in mine that I have marked up, and you guys can, if you want to look at it, you can go by my markings or, whatnot to see what I've had to say about certain things. This is just me. I'm not going to, make anybody else responsible for any of the things that I've said or done on the police report page. Also, what's probably even a better choice, as always, is to check out Brian Bates, what Brian Bates has done on his website, because he definitely has all of those police reports and everything marked up in his website with a lot more detail. I'm still working on my copy because it's so hard to get through and hard to explain. But definitely check out Brian Bates as well, because he's going to give you a lot of information in his police reports. And you can listen to the rest of the podcast if you'd like to. And again, that's at I don't know if anybody can look for the different channels for me real quick. BatesInvestigates.com podcast. I listen to it on Podbean, but you can get it on Apple, on Spotify, I believe, and pretty much all the other popular podcasts. If you haven't checked that out yet, Brian Bates Investigates podcast is the place to start. Absolutely, hands down. He was, if you're not familiar or don't know this, Brian Bates was defense counsel's investigator, so Daniel's investigator for trial. And he has a ton of information. And he's a much better podcaster than I ever will be. So he's very organized. I am not organized, which drives everybody else on the panel crazy. But he will break everything down for you in better ways than I can, and with a lot more information and really, really fine detail. Very informative with detail. So definitely check it out. Thank you, Cherie.
Yeah, his companion website to the podcast is holtzclawtrial.com.
Yes. Yep. So definitely, if you want to get ahead or if you want to try to untwist everything I've tried to untwist, but twisted in my own ways, definitely check out episode 11 in Bates' podcast to get a better understanding. Hopefully, for that 24-hour period of time on February 27th. And what we listened to tonight, what she tried to say or whatever she did, no matter what dates she's giving or what time frames or periods of time or the next day or this or a week later, whatever she said, the incidents literally took place in just less than 24-hour period of time on February 27th. Unless anybody on the panel has anything else that they'd like to add, I'm just going to leave with one with a video that just let me know if you guys have anything you'd like to add or any comments or questions. Okay. It sounds like we don't. So I'm going to call this one done, and we will finish with this video. Oh, yeah, thanks, Q. It is, oh, you have heard. Well, aren't you? Oh, you're in the United States. I can't remember where you were from, Q. You don't have to say, but I'm glad that you've heard about it. And I'm glad to hear that you're going to look into it because it's really, really a twisted case. So I appreciate your support, Q. And yes, Kimmy. Oh, that's right. You're from Oregon. I remember that now. Kimmy is absolutely right. Jason Flom also did a great job in less than an hour. I don't even know how. It takes me multiple hours sometimes to get through one episode of one accuser. But Jason Flom managed to really bust it down fairly, really accurately and very well.
Fairly accurately. He has a couple mistakes in there, but it's hard, man. It's hard to do what he did.
Yeah, I was very impressed by Jason Flom. Also, another, once you've looked at holtzclawtrial.com, Bates Investigates podcast, also like Kimmy and Kay were, like we've been saying, check out Jason Flom's episode. And Michelle Malkin did a 1.5 hour long podcast, or not podcast, but like little docuseries about Daniel's case, and it's called Jeff.
God dang
so
it.
funny. Thank you for saying that. Now I know you. Now, not that I doubted you, but now I know you've been paying attention. We love you. Michelle Malkin did a really, really well done short docuseries of Daniel's case, and it's called Daniel in the Den, and you can find that on YouTube. Yep, Kimmy is absolutely right. Matt Orchard did a 2-hour YouTube, and he did kind of cover both sides. He spent the first hour kind of, like Kimmy's saying, talking about the prosecution side, and then the next hour talking about more of the defense side. So he was fair and unbiased. He didn't seem to really Um, he didn't really seem to take an opinion or a side. He just put out the facts as he knew them, and it's well done. I will say that. And then Cherie posted the link for Daniel in the Den, and yes, we know you. We know you do, Jazz. Thank you. Are you talking about Matt Orchards, Kimmy? Yeah, yeah. His does for sure. Michelle Malkin's really gave me doubt, a lot of doubt. Yeah, and that's just it. And thank you for mentioning that, Kimmy. The reasonable doubt in this case is like blinding. It's so strong. There is no evidence, and there is no physical evidence, and despite what they say about the AVL showing that he was at all these locations, that's absolutely all that the AVL does, is show that he was at all the different locations, because that's what they do. That's what the GPS AVL system does, shows their locations and their driving speeds and all of that.
It shows he was working. Yeah.
He was working, yes.
And which cop calls in the woman that he's getting ready to sexually assault and puts himself out at that location with her? Hey, right. Yeah, I'm out at 15th and Jordan with Tabitha Barnes, and I'm getting ready to rape her.
Getting ready to feel her up.
I mean, it's ridiculous.
It's outrageous, and it's so. I mean, people in Oklahoma, especially those who, even if they do have doubt, if they're sitting on the fence whether they believe Daniel is innocent or guilty, they should be insulted by the way this trial was handled, and we know from some of the transcripts that we've already read how Giger twists everything, how he basically testifies for all of the accusers, and the way he presents everything. I don't see how anybody can think that any of it was true. That's just me, but I'm biased. We all know that, and I already have an opinion based on what I've learned. And so, it's hard for me to really say, but for sure, by the time you get through a couple of these documentaries that Kimmy has brought up and mentioned, and you start listening to some of the shows that we've done where we've read trial transcripts, just the ways that some of you can kind of hear that they're making up lies as they're going during their testimony. And I just feel like, people in Oklahoma should be insulted by the way that the whole thing was handled. That the state and the judge, the disgusting, foul, putrid judge, lied to them the way they did and talked to them in such a way that, they makes them, looking back, I would feel, makes them look a little dumb, for lack of a better word, for believing and buying into all the garbage that they spewed in the trial. Okay.
I think there was fear involved in that too.
Yeah.
Myself, if you're talking about the jury.
Yeah, for sure. Well, the jury, yes, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Talk about that, Cherie.
It was during the Black Lives Matter, when they first became very active around the country, and they were circling the courthouse during the trial and shouting. I imagine they were scared.
Yeah.
To find him, if they found him innocent, and their city might experience a riot.
Right. Well, right, because at this time, by the time of trial, you know, the country had already been and was still going through probably the Ferguson riots and stuff too. So, yes, I would have, I'm not going to lie, I would have been uncomfortable myself, no doubt, on that jury. Kimmy says Matt Orchard's documentary is unbiased, allows viewers to form an opinion, leaves so much reasonable doubt, also doesn't discredit the victims, introduces other possible suspects. I did. If I said that he was biased, I didn't mean to say that he was biased. I meant to say unbiased because that he was unbiased for sure. And I absolutely agree with you, Kimmy. I didn't mean to imply that I thought he was biased. I felt like he did really well separating the two possible sides. So, excuse me. Okay, so what I'm going to do now to end this with, and I'll probably end it with every episode that we do, just so I can drive it into everybody's brains. I'm going to play a short clip of Tabitha Barnes during her deposition when they were working towards on the civil suit against Daniel. And I want to play just a couple of minutes of her deposition. And she's going to get questioned by, I think, Amber Gooch, who was one of the involved parties, one of that the plaintiffs were suing. It was one of their attorney, and then also Rick Smith was the Oklahoma City's attorney, and he's going to ask some questions. And then I think at the very end, we'll hear a couple of questions. We'll hear a voice from somebody that may sound familiar to everybody also. It's only a couple minutes long, and then we'll wrap it up after it's done. Make sure I get.
Didn't touch me.
How many times did Holtzclaw touch you inappropriately?
He didn't touch me.
He never touched you?
No.
Next to the third to the last line says, Holtzclaw then asked Plaintiff Barnes if there was anything under her breast and fondled Plaintiff Barnes's naked breast. Do you see that?
You just read it. Yes, I see it, sir.
Isn't that different than what you testified today?
What do you mean is that different?
Didn't you say Holtzclaw didn't touch you?
He didn't touch me.
So this is a mistake.
He did not touch me.
Okay, and if you go back to Defendant's Exhibit number 11, which is the information, count 1.
Go ahead.
5 lines from the bottom of count 1, directing TB to expose her breast and then touching her bare breast with his hand without her consent. That's also a mistake.
He didn't touch me.
Okay. And you understand that Mr. Holtzclaw was convicted of sexual battery on that count as a result of your testimony?
Yes.
So that would have been a lie?
What would have been a lie?
The fact that he was charged with touching you.
I don't know what he was charged with. I know he was charged with 3 counts of me exposing myself.
Okay.
Just one further question, Ms. Barnes. You would agree, would you not, that you have to be 100% truthful about what you've told us today for you to prevail in your lawsuit?
Yes.
Okay, and you've been 100% truthful with us today about everything that you claimed?
Yeah, that.
You haven't
yeah,
lied
that,
to us, right?
no. Everything that I remember is what I remember. That's what I'm telling you.
Okay. So, having heard that, think back to in the video that we watched, the podcast from Brian Bates, when she says that he placed both of his hands on both of her breasts, lifted her breasts up, and then dropped them, just flopped them and let them go. She definitely says that he touched her on the first alleged time that he encountered her. Then she gets into her deposition some years later and says 5 different times under oath, he didn't touch me. He didn't touch me. So yeah, right. Exactly. At least no one's in prison for it. And he did get charged. I think 8 years was the sentence on that, on that particular charge of him touching her allegedly. And yes, at the end there, we did hear very briefly Kathleen Zellner questioning Tabitha Barnes about being 100% truthful about her testimony.
He got 18 years.
18 years. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So,
8, 18, 263. Who cares?
yeah, it's all exactly. It's all really messed up. So, it's way too many years. And when I say that to people who don't know anything about the case, they're shocked. Even if they don't know what the charges are against, even if I never mention that he's the only thing that the only question that I will get back at times is, Christ, how many people did he murder? He didn't murder anybody, and he's in prison for 263 years. So I'm not saying that sexual assaults are not serious, heinous crimes, but to be accused of them when you didn't do that, when you didn't commit any of them, is horrific and disgusting. And so, Cherie, thank you for doing that. Cherie put in the chat, I'm showing it here on the screen, what the charges were for that Tabitha Barnes had on Daniel. So thank you for doing that. And then exactly, murderers, child molesters, baby killers. I have yet, besides, whatever to life without, I've never seen somebody being convicted of 263 years. Every single charge that he was found guilty of is served consecutively, one after the other, which makes it 263 continuous years that he's in prison for crimes that he absolutely did not commit. If you're somebody who thinks I'm being biased, I am biased. I believe 100% in Daniel's innocence. And not just because of something I've watched or seen or heard or read, but because of the research that I've been involved with Kay and Cherie and Susan and so many others. We're not just sitting here, telling you guys he's innocent with nothing to back up what we're saying. We're untwisting the twisted parts the best that we can, trying to expose the lies and the inconsistencies the best that we can as we find them, because we're not done. I mean, we're still working on things for sure. And that's my main goal. And if we can get enough people paying attention, I'm not a big YouTuber like Matt Orchard or some of these other people who have covered Daniel's case briefly. I'm not like any of them. I'm not professional in the sense that I say what I want and I speak how I want, and I'm not organized at all, to a fault, which is aggravating. But I don't say anything. I don't present anything to you and call it fact unless I know it to be fact. If I am not sure about something, I'm absolutely going to consult with Kay or Cherie or Susan or anybody else that helps us out behind the scenes. And I'll tell you, I'm not sure about this. I'm only speculating. If I'm not saying that, you can be assured that what we are telling you is true and it is factual. And the more people that can give it a shot, listen to some of the trial transcript episodes that we're doing, pay attention to the information that we're sharing that really no one else is sharing except for Brian Bates, the more people are going to hear about the possibility, what if he didn't do it? And I believe there was a billboard in Oklahoma somewhere, if I'm not mistaken. I'd have to have Kay verify that for me, but I thought there was a billboard somewhere.
Yeah, in Oklahoma City for about 5 minutes until the accusers called the company that owned it and complained about them supporting a serial rapist.
Yeah, very briefly. Kimmy says, I can't find anywhere why it was tried all together instead of separate trials. I'm going to have to defer to Kay. I don't know if anything has been said regarding that. We have thoughts and opinions, but that's about all I have.
Was there a motion at any point before the trial by the defense?
Yeah, I do think there was. Giger really wanted it all together. And it makes sense, I guess, to them, because if you don't try them all together, then Kim's little quote that she said in her interview with Michelle Malkin, well, we don't always get things done when we have one, but when you have 13 and the MO's the same and the verbiage is all the same, then we can get things done. So I guess they got some things done.
Even though it wasn't all the same, but they meant
No.
No, nothing at all was the same.
Yeah, that's like Rocky and the 2-hour interview. That's another thing you guys can go to YouTube and watch, is Daniel's initial interview. It's on YouTube. Just type in Daniel Holtzclaw interview or interrogation.
Let's see if I can find it. Yeah.
Yeah, because he brings Terry Morris's information into the interview about Liggins. So, and he tells Daniel when he brings it up, we got this other girl and she's saying the same exact things. No, she wasn't.
No, not at all. Not at all.
And they had already investigated it, and she had already signed a decline to prosecute form, so she was done.
Should have been done.
Should have been done. They needed her, though, or this whole thing would have gone away.
Yep. Trying to find the link for the interrogation.
It's in there. Cherie just posted it.
Oh, okay, awesome. Thank you, Cherie. She's so much quicker than I am. Her and Kat, boom, they are Johnny on the spot with those things. Thank you. Oh, let's see. We have somebody else who's dropped in that a beautiful mess says, I will never forget the so-called victim saying as she's leaving, yes, that was Shardarian Hill.
Even if he didn't rape nobody or nothing, he's still getting in contact with people he pulled over.
Yeah. Yep.
Is good evidence.
Yeah, is this good evidence?
Great,
Yeah.
great reason to give him 263 years.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Oh, and then Kimmy says, or a victim saying he was 5'9" black officer who was blonde. Yeah. Yep. Well, Kim Davis explains away the blonde, why they would believe he was blonde. She has a great explanation. Cherie, do you want to share that one?
Although those police lights, they wash out.
They wash out and
There you go.
Jeez.
Susan has Kratz and Kay gets Kim.
They must have talked about that excuse in that meeting where all the brass met, and they came out of that meeting knowing that they needed to try to loop Terry Morris back into it as well. But they also must have discussed how they could explain away the blonde hair, which it's really just a moot point, because there's no question that Daniel stopped her when they asked did anyone make a stop at 50th and Lincoln. He said, I did, right away. So the whole blonde hair thing and the lights and all, it's like, what's the whole point of all that anyway? There's not anything to figure out. We're not trying to figure out who stopped her. We know who stopped her.
Right.
It was never in question.
Because he said it from the very first sentence he said in the interrogation. He said it. So, first of all, I want to welcome a beautiful mess. I've not seen you in the chat before, but I am really happy to have you here now. And a beautiful mess says, I was disgusted during the interview for embarrassing him and cried when he was found guilty. Then the detectives on the show. Yeah. Yeah. Are you talking about on the Michelle Malkin interview or for the show? Wherever they were disgusting. And shame, and this shameless, the way they talked about Daniel. And it is, once you come to the realization that you believe he's innocent and you watch the way they talk about him, Susan will be the first one to tell you, I take things very personal, very easily. This I take very personal when I see how horribly disgusting they are in the way that Kim Davis and Rocky Gregory speak about Daniel and Galen Giger and David Prater eventually, how they speak about Daniel. It makes me sick to my stomach. It's just infuriating. And also former Oklahoma City Police Chief Bill City, even though doesn't really know very much about the case, the way he speaks, these guys all speak about Daniel like he was the worst, just the worst. There's not a strong enough word how they speak about him, and none of it could be farther from the truth. So yes, we're right there with you, a beautiful mess. And Kimmy says there was a 5'9" Oklahoma officer that did get caught through an through an FBI sting, had to resign. It was 2 years after Daniel's case. Yeah, I think he was fired um, or if he pled guilty to his charges, then they would drop his sentence or give him a better deal or something like that. But yes, I myself have the opinion that he should have been investigated at the very least for the Sherry Ellis accusation, because I
Yeah.
do believe that Sherry Ellis was assaulted and raped. I just know that it wasn't by Daniel, and I personally think that that's a possibility. I don't know that. I don't know what he was working. I don't know what his shifts were, but
Well, the mere fact that in her initial interview, she told Kim Davis that she was raped, and yes, it was a black man. They should have looked in that area to see whose GPS could line up to that. Because he was working the night that Daniel pulled her over. But it wouldn't have been that night because, I mean, what are the chances?
Yeah.
I mean,
And
wouldn't she be freaked out when Daniel pulled her over, or it happened later? Or,
yes.
I mean,
Yeah,
those
good
dates are
point.
just arbitrary and just pinned on Daniel because that's when they have GPS of him having contact with the women. So,
Yeah. And for anybody who's still listening, Q, if you're still listening, or anybody who's listening and you're not really very familiar with the case, when people say there's a mountain of evidence, that's just not true. That is absolutely not true. And what evidence they did have, exhibits that they did use, basically are his records from the shifts that he worked. Yep, he worked that day. Did he call in? Yep, he called it in. Did he do a field interview card? Not every time, but he doesn't have to. Did he check that person in Varuna or Unit 800? Yep, he did. Does his AVL say he was there? Yes, it does. Well, then he did it. That is literally their mountain of evidence. Not because somebody witnessed it, not because there's any physical evidence that the accusers could bring to detectives. None of that is there. So it's really frustrating when people say, when I ask people, why do you, very respectfully, I try to, talk to people in chats and, things like that, respectful and, and with legitimate question, why do you think he's guilty? Uh, Honestly, a lot of the time, the responses that I get, are you effing kidding me? What about the mountain of evidence against him? Like, what mountain of evidence? There's not a mountain of evidence. And then they say, and all the DNA. I'm telling you, the DNA, and we have an amazing presentation also on the channel. I don't know, Cherie, if you can find that quick. I know you can find it quicker than I can. That somebody who we personally know, who is I can never remember, Dr. Silkman does an excellent job for us breaking down the DNA in this case. The DNA that was left on the pants, on Daniel's uniform pants, is barely qualified to be a part of to not be excluded. Barely that much DNA. And it's not, despite what you've heard about DNA coming from from the vaginal walls of the 17-year-old victim, is an absolute 100% lie that prosecutor Galen Gigger said to the jury right near the end of his closing argument at trial. And the jury members that we have got interviews from have said that it was the DNA that I when I heard the DNA, I must be true. And it was so hugely misrepresented that it's very, very frustrating. So if you can look for that presentation by Dr. Silkman in my channel, under just under videos, we had a full like 2.5 hour video where the panel was questions back and forth, and then Dr. Silkman gave the presentation. And then I just separated just the presentation part by itself and also uploaded it so you can watch just that part. And it's thank you, Cherie. The problem is getting people to be willing to at least consider it and check things out, do some research, and a lot of people aren't. It's just easier for people to say, nope, he did it. This is why I know he did it, and so I don't want to hear anything anybody else has to say, especially if you're going to tell me he's not guilty. So Cherie put the link to that in the chat if anybody would like to check that out. Kimmy said, well, people are like, look at him crying, he's got to be guilty. But if he wouldn't have cried, they would be like, look, he has no remorse. Daniel showed pure emotion when that verdict was read. I can't watch that anymore. I know Kay feels the same way. It's impossible for me to watch that anymore. It breaks my heart. So, yeah, and you're absolutely right. He was damned if he did and damned if he didn't. If he cried, this is what happened. If he hadn't cried, and the same with him not testifying. Well, if he was an innocent man, he would have testified. No, it's not true. It's just not true. So, thank you for that comment, Kimmy. A Beautiful Mess asks, did these chicks get money? I heard nothing to convict him. No DNA. Well, I'll let Kay explain it because she'll do it better and faster than I can about the civil suit, if you don't mind, Kay.
I think they each got $18,000, something around there. But
Well,
then
Travis broke that down for us. Do you guys remember what he broke it down?
I thought it was 13, but I could be wrong.
I think I've been saying 13, but I was just looking it up today.
The thing is that the entire case in the civil suit, the city of Oklahoma offered the accusers, the plaintiffs, the total amount was, oh gosh, it just left my brain. It wasn't very much, honestly. 166,800, if I'm not mistaken, and had to total amount. So they didn't get as much money at all as they were asking for. I think originally they each wanted a minimum of 75,000. And then Travis, who's an attorney, friend of ours, a criminal defense attorney, he actually broke it down for us, oh gosh, probably close to a year ago, knowing how those costs would have to, after the award is made and given, how it would have to be broken down, and each of the different civil attorneys would have to be paid because they all worked on a contingency. And so they're going to get, but before anything else, those attorneys for the plaintiffs, Benjamin Crump and his people, and Solomon or whoever they all were, I can't remember all their names. I know Benjamin Crump was one of them, and another person in his office. By the time they all take their cut, and Travis estimated that to be about 43 or 45, if I'm not mistaken, percent. And then all of the costs and everything else that goes along with, court costs and fees and, scheduling and all, whatever the things are, Travis broke it all down, and I felt like he said something like $1,200 or something like that at the end of the day out the door was about all he imagined that these 9 women would receive. But I'm not 100% certain about that. But I know it was very, very little. Considering what they put Daniel through, very little. Let's see. Kimmy says, how about when his GPS shows his car did not even come to a complete stop at the one accuser's location? I don't remember that one. I'll have to look into that, Kimmy. I'm not sure I remember.
7 victims got, they split $129,500 between themselves. So each got $18,500 before all the fees got taken out of it.
Okay. I couldn't remember. It's been a while since that all happened, but it certainly wasn't the millions-dollar lawsuit that they were expecting, that they, and we know why they dropped Daniel. What were they going to get from Daniel? They'd already put him in prison for the equivalent of 2.5 or 3 lifetimes. So naturally they would drop Daniel. But then
The weirdest thing is that the city was awarded summary judgment, which means
yes,
they won their case, but they're the ones that ended up paying out the money, which is really strange.
Yeah, good point. Good point, Susan. Yeah, they didn't have to pay anything. Basically, the plaintiffs were just walked away with an empty case with nothing. But the city of Oklahoma, who, like Susan said, had been granted summary judgment, well, and I guess there was some advice from the judge. I can't remember his name right now, that Kay has talked about.
Heaton, Joseph Heaton.
Joe Heaton, yeah. And I guess that he advised the city to make an offer. And so they did. And
well, actually, it was in circuit court for they appealed the summary judgment granted to the city of Oklahoma City. So it was in the circuit court. That motion was. And then they settled. So it's unclear to me if that happened. I never really thought about if that was something that happened during that proceeding or if it was back down to Heaton to suggest it. You remember that, Rhonda?
I vaguely, I remember you talking to me about it, but I vaguely remember the details about it. Now that you're,
Kimmy is asking what is summary judgment. Yeah. It's basically the case was dropped. They won the city, right?
Well, if you get granted summary judgment, it means that you are dropped from the lawsuit. If you're a defendant,
right,
it means you're released from the lawsuit. Now, if you're a plaintiff, there's usually a monetary payment attached. If you're granted summary judgment, it just means, hey, and usually if it's all the ones who had a guilty verdict, that Daniel got a guilty verdict on, they could have asked for summary judgment and not had to go through this whole mess because it was already basically proven in the eyes of the court that he is responsible for what they claim, even though they weren't actually claiming in their civil suit what he was convicted of in trial. Is so weird because the attorneys for these women didn't know the case well enough to win a bunch of money for their clients. It's almost like they went on the most incorrect talk shows or whatever that covered this case, like TV1 or Crime Watch Daily did a half and half kind of coverage on it.
2020.
Yeah, it's almost like they took the most incorrect programs and used the information in those programs to write their brief.
Right.
It was embarrassing just how incorrect all their information was. They were never going to win
Right.
with stupid attorneys.
Yeah. Who, just by nature of who they are, most of them believed that it was a slam dunk. But for Ben Crump and his office, his partners, to have to, just walk away from a case, what they believe is a civil rights violation case, I think that's a little astounding, but telling, in my opinion. I want to address this by Kimmy. Please correct me if I'm wrong. Didn't they try to say he sexually assaulted 3 women in one shift? Because my thought was, how could he have 0 DNA if he sexually assaulted 3 women in one work shift? You're absolutely correct, Kimmy. And these are the very 3 women. If they had just worked backwards from the night he stopped Janie Liggins, if they had just worked backwards in that first week or so, especially by the time they got the DNA results, they would have had their accusers, they would have had 3, maybe 4 accusers, 5 tops, if they would have went Janie Liggins, Kayla Lyles, Adara Gardner. If they would have went backwards in that shift, they would have found that should have been that quick and that easy of an investigation once they found the DNA.
But that wasn't their main focus. They were freaking out because, Janie Liggins, when her oral wash and swabs around her mouth came back negative for anyone's DNA except her own, they were scrambling to find a way to make him a serial rapist so that, they wouldn't have to deal with whatever the fallout was going to be for them not pressing charges, holding him accountable for Janie Liggins. And I think that's why she went to the press. And she even said, yeah, I went to the press because I was afraid they were going to sweep it up under the rug. So she had to get it out there so that it would have legs.
Yeah.
I think it's a good time to, Kay, to address why frame him. As a beautiful mess asked.
Mm-hmm. I had a really hard time figuring that out because, I've been involved in this case for about 8 years. And everyone used to ask me that, and I couldn't figure it out. And then I started looking at the monetary aspect of, why would they do whatever it took? Why would they sacrifice him? Why wouldn't they just stand behind him and it would go away after a while? But what was happening around the country at the time was a lot of property destruction with the protests. And although Ferguson hadn't happened on June 18th, when he was accused of what he was accused of doing to Janie Liggins for the after hours traffic stop, before he was arrested, Ferguson had happened and Ferguson was on fire. I think they didn't want to go backwards with their maps projects that they were doing in Oklahoma City You know, they'd been doing those for decades. They had already been knocked off their timeline when the Oklahoma City bombing happened. That really set them back a lot. And they really were just building up momentum. And I think they were afraid that was going to get interrupted again. And I think,
And
what I know now is that at the time, the city manager, well, the assistant city manager, who had been the assistant city manager for quite a while, his former position was Oklahoma City police chief. So he was, you know, he was tuned into the whole picture. He was tuned into his responsibility of, managing the money for the city and worrying about all the financial aspect of Oklahoma City. Plus, he had spent a whole career in law enforcement, and he could see the police department side of it too. So I think it really was just fear of having the city destroyed. I can't think of a better answer so far. Nothing really makes sense.
okay, what does MAPS stand for?
I think it's Metropolitan something I don't even know. Metropolitan something project. I don't
But
know.
basically, they were re redoing the city, like
Right.
upgrading,
Yeah,
upgrading everything. And
yeah, they would create, like Maps One created a bunch of projects they wanted to accomplish. They would pitch those projects to the citizens of Oklahoma City and say, hey, if you want all these things, vote yes for the MAPS tax and the MAPS tax on the next ballot. So the citizens of Oklahoma City, they have always passed every MAPS thing that came onto the agenda. Still, and they're still improving. They're still doing these. They're still getting taxes and paying for these projects as they go with this tax money that people are voting for. So, yeah, sales tax. Yeah.
Cherie put a good definition. She put up the definition in the chat as well. Yes, people are willing to sell their souls. I want to get back to, yeah, thank you, Kay, for explaining. Kay, so for those who don't know, Kay lives in Oklahoma. So she's aware of, she's very involved in the community and things like that, or of all these, things that were going on as far as maps and all that stuff. But I want to address this by Kimmy. Do you think that's why some alleged victims recanted, like maybe felt guilty after they didn't get that much for how long his sentence was? Kimmy, I know there's a lot of people that sit out there saying that, two of them or some of them are recanting or all of them are recanting. Nobody is really recanted at all. The only thing that I am aware of that comes close to a recantation, and it really isn't even a recantation, is from Sherry Ellis during her deposition. And I don't know if you've seen that video that we've done, Kimmy, but during her deposition, Sherry Ellis very clearly makes the attorneys aware she didn't know who, when they showed her a picture of Daniel and asked her if she knew who that was, she said no. And they said, have you ever seen him before? And this is in her deposition after the trial, after he was given 62 years on her counts alone. She said that she had never seen the officer before, and that she first saw him when they were at trial. And she says something like, "That's who, when I seen who they said, who they said raped me." She could not identify Daniel during the preliminary hearing when they asked her to identify, stand up and identify him. She couldn't identify Daniel in the courtroom. And in her deposition, she's really, really very, very emotional. But she, and I personally feel like she feels guilt, because if that may have been the first time she realized that she wrongfully accused somebody of raping her. She doesn't say
Also,
that.
Tabitha's saying that he didn't touch her.
Yeah, he didn't touch me.
That's a
Yeah.
recantation.
Well, it's an
It is in a
inadvertent.
sense. Yeah, or an inconsistency.
I don't think either Tabitha or Sherry Ellis actually meant to recant.
No, I
Because
don't
you
think
notice
so.
when they're asking Tabitha, when Richard Smith comes back and says, "So that'd be a lie? What'd be a lie?" She
Yeah.
doesn't actually know what she just said. She doesn't know that she just contradicted her trial testimony.
Right. I'm
Yeah.
not saying meaning. I mean,
Yeah.
they meant to
Intentionally.
recant, but
Well, but
yeah, intentionally.
yeah, but
But
I think it, like, in a court of law, if you're saying someone recanted, they're just
yeah,
wholeheartedly saying this never
I lied
happened.
or it didn't
I
happen. Yeah,
lied. No one
yeah.
said that.
Yeah.
And those
So
depositions were also before the civil suit was settled.
right, I
Correct.
was gonna say
Right.
that. And Sherry
So,
Ellis didn't get a settlement, so she
uh,
wasn't one of the what I say, 8 or 9.
Yeah. I think originally it was 9, and then it must have been changed to 7. Well, yeah, because her and was it Adara that removed themselves from the suit at that point
Yeah,
or
and
something. So yeah,
I know Adara can still file it again if she wants to.
yeah, she might. We'll see,
But
but
the bulk of these women cannot refile against him.
that's right. Yep. And let's see, Kimmy. And by the way, I love all of your questions and comments in the chat. Kimmy says they should have moved his trial to another state since it was so high profile and all the jurors had heard of him. Well, yeah, that would have been nice, but that wasn't. That would have never happened. The state would have never. The judge, the dirty judge, would have never. I don't even know if they asked for a change of venue. Do you know, Kay?
Oh, I think they did actually.
Yeah, I can't remember. I'm pretty sure it's in a one of the hearings or something in the transcripts, but
Yeah, there are only like 4 million filings. So
yeah, it's
in this
ridiculous.
case, the amount of paper in this case is nuts.
Yeah, makes you sad about how many trees must have given their lives. Kimmy says that he did not touch me, or the other lady that said the first time. Okay, yeah, those are the ones, Sherry Ellis and Tabitha Barnes. And I'm not certain about this. I'm probably wrong, but I helped make those video clips, and once those got released, I feel like that's when people started saying, because they were shown on the news in Oklahoma, because
Well,
Daniel was. Go ahead, Kay.
the news said that they recanted. So the news started the shit with the whole recantation story.
Okay, well, that makes sense then, because I know it seemed like it was after those videos were released publicly that that's when that whole thing about recantations came out. So those are the only two that really can even touch a recantation, but they're not even really recantations in my mind, in our minds. Just inconsistent with their testimonies, really, is what it really comes down to
Well, and
for me.
Terry Morris, too, her deposition testimony was, she was right back to saying that
Yeah.
it happened on the 20th or 21st, not May 8th. So
Right.
they needed her to say that May 8th date to just be able to charge him on her.
Right.
But then because of how ludicrous her story was, he was acquitted on all counts on her.
Right. Right. And the same with Kayla Lyles, who we'll get to eventually, and Shardarian Hill. Thank God. Hers was the most bizarre, I think. I don't know. They're all pretty bad.
Well, I mean, he did some stupid stuff with Shardarian Hill, was friending her on Facebook and thinking that he could, he had sat in that hospital room and visited with her that whole afternoon or evening, whatever it was. I can't remember the time in and out of the hospital, but and she lied to him and told him that she was trying to change her life and that she had started school and she just messed up, and she really suckered him, and he was trying to encourage her, and the messages on Facebook show that.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, there were 2 5-second phone calls or something like that, and she alleges that all the sexual stuff happened in phone calls.
Yeah.
Okay, whatever.
Yeah. Kimmy, I'm very impressed then, if that's the case. Kimmy says, I'm new to this case. I just heard about him about 5 months ago. I've been trying to deep dive and find out all sides and everything that's available out there. I'm impressed. You seem to know quite a bit for, only diving for 5 months. Cherie and I have been doing this for over 3 years. Kay's been doing it for over 7 years. And, we're still learning stuff all the time. So, it's impressive that you've looked, you haven't just made up your mind based on a few different things that you've seen or heard or read. So I appreciate that very much. And I'm fine with people not, coming to watching these podcasts or videos and getting in the chat and saying they disagree, with us. And that happened a few weeks ago. Somebody came into the chat who we'd never seen before and was initially disgusted that we were even defending him. And so I just asked, why do you believe he's guilty? And the person said why, and turned out
only because she had only watched the interrogation and nothing else, and deemed him guilty from that, which is crazy.
Yeah. Was out, and by the time we were finished that night, I got all fired up. Kay had to cut me off, kind of like, okay, let's be done. Not that not that Kay doesn't want us. I was running it on too long, which is what I always do. I talk too much, but
that's what she does.
That's what I do. I am.
I thought you handled it well.
Sure, yeah, I appreciate that. But I just got fired up and excited because we literally, in about a half hour's time, found somebody who believed he was guilty and then was willing to open their mind and say, wow, there is something else to this case that I never thought about before, and was willing to listen. And that's all we want. That's all we're asking, is people have open minds, be willing to learn more. And, if they decide to change their mind in the process, great. If not, we're going to keep talking about it. That's just how it's going to be. So, and then Kimmy says, our justice system is without a reasonable doubt. And I have several doubts. Right. I do too. And I think
I have a
most people on it
mountain
now.
of doubt.
Yes. Yes, a whole entire 263 years worth of doubts.
It is hard to imagine that the jurors had no doubt.
Yeah. Except that, except that when you consider that how long were they in trial? 4 weeks, 5 weeks, and then, everything just had to be so confusing.
Well,
I mean, just
you
when you
know
try to.
what Giger said about the DNA, I think is what sunk him, which was a lie.
Right.
Mhm. Yep.
And it was a real
And
emotional statement, for him to say those words.
yes,
Absolutely.
and to never be held accountable for it. It's a scientific lie, what he said, and that's provable, but, that's a whole other topic. So, it's very frustrating. Kimmy says, yes,
And
it's probably
was it
more accurate. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Uh,
No.
it was even what one of the jurors said. What brought him there, right? Was the DNA.
Mhm.
That
Daniel speaks.
Yeah, he said, well, they said it was from the vaginal fluid of a 17-year-old that was on his pants. So they said.
Yeah.
So the DNA was the biggest thing for them.
And then when you throw in the possibility that there was possibly some angst and fear of some of the jurors, because there's a whole
Well,
lot more that went on during the trial regarding the protesters that we haven't even
exactly.
read and talked about yet. That
Yeah.
it's coming, but we haven't gone over it yet. And it wasn't just about them chanting outside, the awful things that they chanted. There was a lot more to it than that, and we'll
It
get
was
to that
about
as
a
we go.
riot about to happen.
Yeah, Grace Franklin said that.
I have no doubt that
Well,
city would have been torn up.
Yeah, she said, I don't know what's going to happen if they don't find him guilty. I know we're going to riot. I know we can't, they're not going to let us riot here, meaning downtown. And we're not going to do it in our neighborhood. So it's like she didn't know where they were going to riot. But you know what? If you have enough people, yeah, if you have enough people, you can do it wherever you want to do it. When you start outnumbering the police.
Yep. And that's what was brewing, literally, that we know about, that you haven't heard about, that went on during the trial, which, like I said, we'll get to that too soon in transcripts. Okay. This has been great. I really appreciate Kimmy and I'm so sorry, without a beautiful mess. Thank you so much for your comments and your questions. It's part of how we help get information out there. People asking questions that we get to try to explain is how it's how we get more information out to a bigger audience, hopefully. So if you guys don't mind, if you would share the content and let other people know that there is a different side, a different group who are giving some facts backing it up. What do they say now? We're bringing the receipts or whatever. We're doing that with trial transcripts and preliminary transcripts, and discussing and breaking down each accuser as we go. So don't be sorry for your comments. No, it's what helps us. So don't ever be sorry. We appreciate it. So if you don't, if you would, I don't really say this very often because I feel like it's annoying, but if you would like the video and share it elsewhere and, comment. Those are the things that are going to help. As much as I used to think it was a bunch of bullshit, I'm learning that those are the things that are going to help the content get pushed out to more viewers. So if you guys could do that, we would really appreciate it, because that's all we're trying to do is get more information out of what really happened that people didn't get to see or hear. So I would really appreciate if you could help us out with that. At the very beginning, I announced that I managed to figure out how to make some custom emojis. And I think there are 3 in there right now for channel members. If you're a member of the channel or if you want to join, there are 3 custom emojis that you can use. I've made about 6 or 8 of them. I'm very picky. I'm very fussy about things. And even though I'm not organized, I like things to be just the right way. So I've made a bunch. Some I'm, deleting. Others but as you move up in level, as far as, as long as you've been, the time you've been a member and such, you will get more emojis will be added to that you can use if you want to. And I don't know, maybe Cherie or somebody can pop those into the chat right now so that people can see them if they haven't seen them already. And next week, we're going to break down the 3rd alleged incident, and I'm going to show you that was all an entire lie. That whole incident was a lie, and I'm going to show that to you, and I'm going to prove that to you. I don't usually say prove things, but this I have proof of. So I'm going to prove that to you next week when we complete the Bates part, the Bates review of this episode. So if there are no other comments or questions from the chat, anybody on the panel have anything left that they would like to say or mention or comment about?
Nope, I'm good.
Okay. All right. If that's all, then we're going to say wrap this one up for tonight. Hopefully, we've helped clear up a few things, and especially with this particular accuser with Tabitha Barnes, and we'll clear up a few more things next week, and then we'll see where we go from there, whether we are going to start with reading transcripts or not. We'll just kind of play it by ear at that point. But thank you, everybody in chat. Thank you, everybody who's lurking. And thank you to the panel and for all of your, engagement and helping explain things so that I don't make it a mess. And so until next time, next Thursday, 5 p.m. Central, peace out.